Hey YouTube, this is Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters, your guide in DIY multimedia production, and I'm back again today with another Qtractor tutorial. This one I'm going to try to get into some more advanced topics and try to do a little bit more with the software. And I think what I'm going to try to do, at least attempt to do, is make something that I might actually use in my music. A lot of times when I do these tutorials, I just sort of screw around and I'm not very serious with the music that I'm making in the tutorial. But I figured, why do I do that? Why don't I try to do something that's actually good and just do it how I would do it when I'm not doing a tutorial, and then, you know, maybe you guys would be able to learn more from that than the ones where I'm just sort of screwing around. So that's my thought today. I started something up here, a project already, and I'm going to actually close my face here because it's just going to get in the way, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So what I wanted to show you, what I did so far is I just created 2 tracks here, and I actually don't know if I'll keep both of these, but what I wanted to show you was I actually have on this one, on track 1 that I just named drums, I have the CAF Fluid Synth, which is the Fluid Synth sound font player, and I've loaded up my Dell Imperialstar SF2 file, which is my Imperialstar drum set sound font that I created in one of my videos on here, and you can check that out if you're interested and download it for free. So I have that on channel 1, and then on channel 2, just cancel that, I'm using, actually I should call this drums 2, because what I'm using in here is actually this very cool drum sampler, also created by Rui, the developer of Qtractor, who I want to thank actually for coming on and watching my last video and answering some of my questions, and just for making all this amazing software in general. It's really, really cool stuff. But so this one, I actually just started getting into this, and I really, really think this is an amazing plugin. And actually, I do want to start up my camera again because I want to show you something. Okay, so I have my Kai MPD24 hooked up here. And this is actually an older model, but they make similar ones to this now, with the pads and stuff and various brands. But what I'm doing here is I'm using that with this, first off, let me put this on top here so it doesn't get lost behind the things. I have this hooked up to my jack connections to the Midi in Qtractor, and I loaded in this plugin, which is this really cool drum sampler called Drum KV1. And I started loading up some samples, and you can see that I have these mapped to my pad controller here. And I wanted to go through how to do this first, and because I don't have all of them full yet. I only have a couple of them in there so far. And so what we do, basically the way I set up my pad controller is I actually have a setting on this one that is just called GM Chromatic, and depending on what kind of MIDI controller you're using, you may need to set it a little bit differently. But the way the chromatic setting is, it basically just turns this into a keyboard. So the mapping is very easy to figure out. It just kind of goes right down, you know, like linearly through the Drum KV1 sampler here. So if we look at number 36, this is where I have this kick drum mapped. So you can see every time I hit that pad, well, you can't see that pad, but this pad right here, that makes that sample happen. So if we slide this over a little bit more, there we go, now we can see all the pads. So, okay, so where was I? And then if we move on to number 37, I have a side stick sample in there, acoustic snare on number 3, or 38 rather, and then hand clap, I have another side stick map there. And where am I getting these samples from? I'm actually, these are samples, well, various things. The kick drum sample, the sub kick, I downloaded that online, but the other ones are all samples that I made off of various drums, and samples also that are included in a couple of my sound fonts. But this snare drum, actually this snare drum is the same snare that's on the Imperialstar. But that one, I actually used the effects here in Drum KV1. I used the reverb effect to make that sound a little bit different. If we turn this down, you can hear that's the normal sound. So let me turn that back up. And okay, so I have one hi-hat in there. So let's go ahead and add a couple more hi-hats. Let's see where we are. So this one, you know, you kind of can ignore what these names are. These are just like basically the general MIDI, I think so, the general MIDI names that would be normally mapped to these particular sample slots or MIDI slots. But you could put whatever you want in there. So we're just going to highlight that and then double click right here. And then I'm going to find another one of my hi-hats. And let's see. There's one I did that's like a tip. Let me find that. Closed hat tip. There we go. So I open that. And if you want a certain sample, let me close this again, or I'll just move it out of the way. If you want any one of the samples to not have the reverb or the effect that you have on the effects side here, then all you have to do is just go over here to this out section of the sampler, and then you lower this down all the way, or whatever level you want the effects to be on. So now if I take that off, that'll be dry. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add another sound. What do I want? Let's just do another hi-hat there. Let's do open hi-hat. I'm going to get rid of that reverb again on that one. Okay. And what else? I'm going to put a ride right there, actually, so I can have one close to the hi-hat. So let's just put ride 1 right there. Take the effects off. And also I want the release to be long on the ride. So we can just turn that up all the way. And level 2, we can turn that up all the way. Let's just turn everything up, all of these up all the way except for the attack. So that way the ride sustains as long as it would naturally. Okay, now let's move to here. And I think I'm going to put my toms on these two. Guess I'll put the floor tom first. And I might leave the reverb on the toms. Sounds kind of cool. Alright, let's go to the next one. Okay, so let's take a look. So this way you can get an idea of how this is now. Oops, what did I just do? I turned something down. Ah, I messed with the channel. There we go. kind of want those toms to be a little bit louder. So to make those louder, I'm going to go here on each one of the samples, and then just turn the volume up on the output. And also, what I've been doing as I make this, you can see that it says Justin's First Kit in there. So I just basically type that in there, and then you can save whatever presets you want. So that way, when you go back later and want to load up a drum, a drum rack, then you can do that pretty easily. And what I really like about this plugin, for one, is its simplicity, and for two is like, I don't know if you've ever used Ableton in the drum rack. I used to use that quite a bit because I have this pad controller, and it's really cool to use, with these kind of samplers. And this one, it's a really, it doesn't quite have as many functions as the drum rack in Ableton, but it's very close, and it does quite a bit. It has a filter in here, which I haven't even touched on yet, an LFO, and effects section, and we can get into those a little bit later. Like, what you could do is, like, you don't even have to just put drums in here. You could put in, like, samples, like more music type samples. Well, actually, let me just load one up and we can experiment with it. So let me find, this is number 46. So I'm going to open up a sample that is more music. And I think I put some, let's see, I have some in here somewhere. Okay, yeah, one of these would probably work. All right. Yep. So if we mess with this envelope a little bit, we'll be able to change. This back over this camera so you can see this. So yeah, I mean, this just opens up a lot of possibilities for not only recording, but also using this live. You could have this plugin, and I believe there's also a standalone version of it as well. So you could essentially just have this and a pad controller and be a pretty cool live instrument. So yeah, let's go ahead and I guess I can leave that in there. Let's play with it a little bit, though. Let's go ahead and, see what we can do with the pitch. If we change this a bit. And let's play around with this LFO a little bit. And I'm not sure how to do this. I haven't done this one yet. LFO, where are you? Okay, so yeah, we got this doing stuff. Basically, you have your width settings and your different waves, and then it can either affect the volume, the amplitude or the pitch, and it also has a filter. Which I don't think I'm doing right just yet, but if we adjust the pitch, that one's pretty drastic. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and record some of that. Let me get a BPM first. Actually, that sounds pretty good. Let's try it. A little bit faster, I think. Oops. Ah, rats. Alright, let's go ahead and record a little bit of that. That was interesting. I have no idea how I just took a screenshot, but something I pressed on my Midi controller seemed to make that happen. But let's go ahead and find that last clip. Oh, yeah, I know how I can do this. You can press Shift... Wait, what is it? Shift T, I think? Yeah, to cycle through the takes. And why is there nothing there? Yeah, there's still something weird going on with this. There should have definitely been something there, so let's delete that and try it again. Also, what's pretty cool is you can actually hook your transport. I have my transport here hooked up to Qtractor, and it's just as simple as basically just, you know, hooking the Midi controller to Qtractor, and if you have MMC control on your controller, it will automatically work. Do I not have loop record on? That might be the problem. Let's see. Yeah, it's on there. Put it back on last. screenshot again. There we go. Okay, so let's play that back. It sounded pretty cool. And that's just with only 2 channels on there right now. One the sampler and one the sound font. The sound font only has the hi-hats, so there's still way more possibilities of stuff we could do in here. Let's just go ahead and clean this up a bit. Okay, so I added quite a few bit of parts here, and let me just play it back so you can hear how it sounds now, and then I will explain to you what I did. Okay, so as you can hear, there's a couple of loops going on there, and you notice there's some like a wobble bass down there on track 3, and I wanted to explain how I was changing the wobble frequency, and you can pretty much see it right here, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with automation, and that's exactly what this is. And some of you may not be, but what automation means is basically controlling a parameter of either the track itself or a plugin on the track or an instrument on the track with basically these, squiggly lines, for lack of a better term. But the way that this works is, Qtractor has a really, really good automation feature, actually. And if we go in here, if we click this little arrow, we'll see right here where it says track, or select, not track, select. You have all of the track attributes that you can change things with automation. And you'll notice you have monitor, pan, volume, record, mute, solo, and here is Sourcer, and this is the plugin I'm using for bass. And I'll show you this too in a second, because this is a really cool little bass plugin that you can download. And what this does is all I had to do there was just select LFO1 frequency, and then switch over to this tool, automation. We click on this. This is basically our edit tool. We click on this and then select automation, and then you can change this little automation levels right here. So I'll get rid of that. But so all you have to do is you just click anywhere you want it to be faster or slower. So higher up will be faster, and lower down on the grid will be slower. So if we play this back, you can see. That's a pretty common effect with like dubstep and stuff like that, where they speed up the wobble and slow it down. You could do it more organized than I did. Mine's a little bit random, but I kind of like it that way. So once you have your automation programmed and all put in, then what you do is you go here and you select this down arrow again, and then you just select play or play all. If you select play it'll only play the one that is selected at that time. If you select play all, then it'll play all of the automation you have on that particular track. And then you can also record automation, and this is cool to do. Like if I mapped a MIDI control to my wobble speed on that on the Sorcerer plugin, then I could hit record, and then instead of manually putting in these little dots here to change the automation, I could actually be twisting the knob on the MIDI controller and changing it that way. And then you'll get a lot more like real-time control over the types of effects processing that you want to do on that particular track at that time. So yeah, okay, let me show you what Sorcerer actually looks like. And it's a pretty simple looking plugin, and this actually isn't in the KX Studio repository, or wait, is it? I can't remember if it is or not. Let me check that real quick. Maybe it is. I thought I had to download it, but maybe I checked later and it was there. Let's just check that real quick. Oh yeah, okay, so it is there. So it's just Sorcerer, S-O-R-C-E-R, and you can just apt-get install that if you want to use this plugin. And it's really cool. It doesn't have a whole huge range of sounds, but it has that sound. If you want to get that sound, like I was looking for that bass sound a while ago, because that's kind of like Massive does the native plugins, or Native Instruments Massive plugin, kind of has a similar sound to that. And I wanted something like that, and then this popped up, and I was like, oh wow, cool. So what's really cool about it too is it actually has a sub bass, and you probably noticed that huge low end coming out of it. So you can adjust the level of that too. You could take it completely out, put it back up where it was. You can change the sound of the different waves. Got a built-in compressor over here. So yeah, it's pretty damn cool. I like it quite a bit. So another thing, somebody had asked a question on, I'm sorry I forget the YouTuber's name and I'm not looking at it right now, but they wanted to know how to fade in and out on in Qtractor, and actually that's quite simple to do. All you need to do is just hover your mouse. Let me switch back to my regular edit tool. All you need to do is hover your mouse over this little square. You see these little squares on the edge of every single clip? If you just hover your mouse over to that, and when your mouse pointer turns into a little hand pointing, you can just click and drag, and that will fade that in. And that's all you have to do. And that works on audio and MIDI as far as I know. Alright, so there's one last thing I wanted to go over today, and that is how to do sub-effects. Or basically, like, some people call them bus effects, some people call them sub-effects. And this is what when you create a bus and create a channel for that bus where you can just put effects on it, and then you can route other channels to that channel that has effects on it. So basically you can have, this is good for if you want to use a lot of the same effect on one channel. Also, or many channels rather. Also, it can be good if you have, like, if you want to do some compression on a group of drums, you can do it this way. So yeah, it took me a little while to figure this out in Qtractor, because the way that the buses work, they're a little bit different for audio and MIDI. What you have to do, since we're using all MIDI tracks right now, is first we're going to go into the buses section by clicking on View and then go to Buses. And then you just highlight one of the audio buses. Right now we only have master. So I'm going to call this one effects. And then turn off auto connect and leave it set as duplex. And then just click create. And then you can close that. And then we're going to create another track. So we just go to add track. And let's call this one effects level. Whoops. Then here, let's go ahead and, well, we have to tell it that it's audio first. And then you'll see it already selected the bus effects, but if it didn't, if it says master there, what you're going to do is you're going to click on here and select the bus that you're going to use for your effects, which is the one we just set up. So for the input, this is going to be where the sound is going to be coming from, and then for the output is where it's going. So obviously you want your output going to the master, and the input's going to come from the effects. So we're going to click OK here. And then, well, we could have added plugins there. So let's go back. We'll double click on it and open up this little dialog. And let's go ahead and put on, let's do like a delay. And actually, there's one in here I wanted to use. It's pretty cool. Yeah, this Seascape. This thing is pretty cool. So let's add that in. Let's put this down to 2 and make sure the blend is up all the way. Let's turn dry down all the way. Turn our feedback up a little bit. And BPM, let's make the same BPM as the song, which is 140. And okay, and then we close that, and let's add a compressor. We'll do the Invada compressor. And let's put it up pretty high, like, I don't know, 6 to 1. Turn down our threshold, and then turn up our gain. All right. And let's see. Now what we have to do, let me pull the mixer over here so you can see this. We're going to go from our drums 2 channel. This is the one, or one of the ones I want to send to the effects. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to inserts, then go to audio. Now this is what was confusing to me. I kept thinking I should use aux send, but this won't work. You have to basically do it as an insert and use it as an aux send, and only use the sends part of the insert. So if we go here and click on sends, then we can go our insert out 1. We connect that to effects in. Connect it there. Then close this, and then we're not going to do returns. So what we're going to do is close this, and now if we play it back, let's solo our track here. And then if we activate this, okay, so here are our effects. I turn them off. And you can see it getting the level right here, and this is where the effects are going through. Yeah, that's how you create an effects bus. It may be different with audio. I haven't actually tried that yet, and maybe then the aux send will do what it's supposed to do, or maybe it does what it's supposed to do. I shouldn't say that, but I just don't understand what it's supposed to do. The way I thought that it would work is that basically how we're using this insert. But if we go here to if we add an aux send, and all it will give you is the output bus. It doesn't allow you to go to input. So I don't really know why that is, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the way it was set up and has another purpose that I just don't understand. But the way that I was able to get this to work was by using the insert and just use it as an aux send. And then you can send it to the, any bus input you have here, then you can route that output of that bus to another fader within Qtractor. So hopefully that made sense. I know this tutorial was a bit disjointed, and I had to stop a couple of times because I was having a little bit of problems, and then I also had a pretty bad headache there for a little while, so I had to take a break and then come back, but feeling better now, and hopefully that made sense. And if you enjoyed this tutorial and want to see more like this, just go ahead and click the like button and make sure you subscribe. And, click any sponsored links or anything like that I might have anywhere. If you want to click any of the Amazon links on any of my videos and buy anything on Amazon after clicking one of those links, that'll help me out. So anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day, everybody. Later.